Saluton ĉiuj! Hello everyone, kaj bonvenon al la dua leciono, and welcome to the second lesson. Today we're going to be talking about nouns, substantivoj in Esperanto. Alright, one thing that would be helpful to cover first is that in Esperanto, every single word is based on roots that don't change. Normally they're a consonant, vowel, consonant, though they can be more than one syllable, and what is added before and after them shows their exact meaning and role in the sentence. Alright, now nouns, you may be asking yourself. Well, oftentimes they're described as people, places, and things. We'll be mostly focusing on the things part. And in Esperanto, the sound that really makes nouns stand out is o. For instance, if we look at just the root gat, it really doesn't mean anything on its own, but gato means it is a cat. All right. Let's look at the same roots, just with different ending sounds to see what it does. Bono is good, as in doing good. Bona is good, as in something that is good. Bone is well, as in doing something well. And boni is to be good. More on that in the verbs. And something very helpful in Esperanto as well is the word la. La is the equivalent of the. It doesn't change depending on what it does in the sentence. It all remain la. Also, Esperanto does not have an equivalent of a or un. So, to express the same idea, the word itself is used without anything before it. Alright, so we've looked at how to show that something is a thing. In this case, gato, a cat. Well, if we want to show that there's more than one that we're talking about, we add yo, the letter yo, and remember it makes a Y sound. So, gatoi is cats. Alright, so you know how in English we say things like, he is here, but I saw her as opposed to she? In Esperanto, whenever a person, place, or thing is being directly affected by the action in the sentence, the sound n is added on to the end of the word, such as in the example, mi lernas Esperanton, which means that Esperanto is something that I'm learning. And prepositions, if there's no movement, but we'll work with that more in the prepositions, they disable that system. Okay? Let's look over this again with hundo, a dog. Alright? Just one hundo, one dog, being active in the sentence is hundo. More than one, hundoi. But if the dog is receiving an action, it's hundon, and if there's more than one dog receiving the action, it's hundoin. Alright. Also in Esperanto, just like in English, there are pronouns. In Esperanto, pronomoi. These are used to kind of act as a summary. Imagine having to say your own name or something strange like this one every time that you wanted to refer to yourself. Well, just like in English, Esperanto has ones like me, which is the equivalent of I. And just like with the nouns, adding n at the end of the word shows that it is receiving the action. So let's look at this. Me is, so the first person, whoever's talking, is just one. Ni is when there's more than one. The equivalent in English is we. Just as in English, vi covers both one person that you're talking to directly or more than one person that you're talking to directly. Li is someone outside of the conversation who's male. She, just like in English, is someone outside of the conversation who's female. And ji is something out of the conversation that doesn't have a gender. Ili is the more than one. Someone or someone's or some things outside of the conversation. There are two others. Oni, which is, in sayings especially where it says things like, one must not do such thing. Well, in Esperanto, oni is the equivalent of that. And then there is si, which is often in English, himself, herself, itself. Esperanto just does that with si. So he sees himself, li vidas sin. Nice and simple. And since in Esperanto the role of the word is shown in the word, the sentence order is much more free. The sentences mi serĉas libron, libron mi serĉas, serĉas mi libron, mi libron serĉas are all the equivalent of in English, I am looking for a book. And kotopo is expanded into kai tiel plu, which is the equivalent of etc. And on a final note, names, nomoi. In Esperanto, oftentimes it's helpful to try to find an equivalent in some language that is ending in o, especially for men's names, and that makes it a lot easier to show their role in the sentence and everything. But it's not always that simple. Overall, it's generally accepted that as long as the rest of the words in the sentence show what they're doing, you can do whatever you want with names. And that was the nouns of Esperanto, the people, places, and things. As you'll see, it's pretty simple. One thing that I recommend is getting a dictionary and using the as ending, which is the present verb, present actions, and looking at the sentences in this lesson and seeing what you can do to make your own sentences out of it. Dankon, thank you, and gis revido.